Hi and welcome back. We hope that you had a refreshing break. Now, you know this one's coming, right? Please put your phones on silent. Thank you. This morning's last panel is entitled Skills for Excellence, and the panel chair is Britta Ågård. Britta is a member of the Lind Expert Group, Gala and LT Innovate, and as Chief Business Officer, oversees the total business within localization and advanced language solutions. I would like to invite Britta and her panel to join us on stage.
But just before the panel starts, there will be a short video message from Seth Godin, a much translated American author and .com business executive. He prepared this video for Société Française des Traducteurs, and they produced the subtitles. Could we have the video, please?
Hi, it's Seth Godin. Thank you for the work you do. The work of craft, of being a translator who brings humanity and insight and skill to the work. It should be obvious now that artificial intelligence is going to completely replace any mediocre, average, workmanlike effort to translate any language into any other language. That is now a commodity that's close to free. Just like there's an AI that can do a voice that sounds a lot like mine and write a blog post that reads a lot like one of mine, except there's a difference. And the difference is the thing that you do. The difference.
Oh, we have to play that again. It's such a beautiful statement, so please.
Hi, it's Seth Godin. Thank you for the work you do. The work of craft, of being a translator who brings humanity and insight and skill to the work. It should be obvious now that artificial intelligence is going to completely replace any mediocre, average, workmanlike effort to translate any language into any other language. That is now a commodity that's close to free. Just like there's an AI that can do a voice that sounds a lot like mine and write a blog post that reads a lot like one of mine, except there's a difference. And the difference is the thing that you do. The difference is when we bring the extra part, the emotional labor, the connection, the insight, and the care to make it better, markedly better than what we can get from a machine. This is the opportunity. The opportunity is not to end up competing with the commodity-focused AI, but instead to be the only viable substitute, to be the one that we need when we need something that's worth it. So thank you for the ruckus you make. Thank you for leading.
Thank you for playing that again. Isn't that a beautiful statement? So for me, it says that language is at the core of humanity, and language is also at the core of AI. We in this room and the huge audience out there have a unique opportunity to lead in these profound times of changes, and actually not becoming a competing commodity, but a purposeful and intentional guardian of real, meaningful sense-making. And what does that now require from us as language professionals? And how can we translate that into teachable and learnable skills? This is what I want to discuss with this wonderful panel I have here today. I need to share a little story from last night where one of my peers asked me, "Oh, you have a professor on your panel. Isn't that a little bit difficult?" I said, he is probably the coolest professor I've ever met. So let's start with Pablo. Very briefly, I want to invite all of you to introduce yourself. But Pablo, please introduce yourself.
I can't do that after what you said. I'm just a researcher and trainer at the University of Vigo. I work mostly on audiovisual translation and media accessibility, and I'm a filmmaker, so I make films as well.
Lisa.
Hi there, my name is Lisa Rüth. I'm a financial translator for German and English and a little bit of Spanish once in a while. And I'm a managing partner at Ralf Lemster Financial Translations based in Frankfurt. And what we do is in our name, financial translations.
Diego has a mic already.
Yeah.
Born ready.
Thank you, Britta. I'm Diego Crescieri from Italy. I'm the founder of a translation company in Genoa. I'm an interpreter by education, never done that. Too difficult for me. So that's why I'm an entrepreneur now. It's much easier, I would say. Thank you again.
And last but not least, Christian, you're on your home turf here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cristian Brașoveanu. I'm a member of the translation and AI language services team at DG Translation. And I'm a project officer. I coordinate certain projects, including in supercomputing area. And also I coordinate the AITC network, which is now the Commission's internal corporate community focusing on AI practical applications.
So what a diverse panel. I mean, this is super exciting. I want to kick us off also with the theme of our panel today. In one or two sentences, Christian, let's start with you. What is excellence for you and what is quality for you?
That's a very big question, but I would say, starting with excellence, I would say that excellence is the highest level of quality that you can achieve. And I think when I think about quality in practical terms, I feel like there is an objective and a subjective dimension. You can have quality in anything, whether it's translation or text or building something that just meets the requirements perfectly, and then you have the highest quality. But there's also that subjective wow factor, like you look at something and say, oh, this is really, really well done, really, really high quality.
So I can see already it's very difficult to define excellence or quality in one or two sentences, but let's try again, Diego.
I'll try. So I was thinking about how to answer this question, and I think, the adage that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. I think the same applies to quality and to excellence as well. It's not really objective, it's subjective, as I said. It has to do with meeting the requirements, it has to do with talking with your customers, it has to do with really understanding the needs of the person you're talking with.
And now, that was also not one or two sentences, but Lisa, now, your challenge.
Quality for me would be producing a translation that meets the need of the text, that is fit for purpose, and excellence would be surpassing expectations.
That was much better. So now, Pablo, see what you can do with that. What is quality? What is excellence?
I'll stick to the short one as well. So for me, quality could be seen as fit for purpose, meeting requirements and expectations. And then excellence will be going beyond that. But again, that begs the other question, which is what are the requirements and expectations? So hopefully in the next questions we can deal with that.
Exactly. But Lisa, I want to start with you actually, when we now speak of excellence. So what are the specifics of, let's say, the human excellence that is required in your field? And of course also, how do you use technology, and do you maybe think that technology can also elevate your work, or is there something that technology can do even better than humans?
So, as I said, I work in finance, so I have a very tight niche. Abigail Dahlberg, perhaps you know her from Greener Words, she once said, you should find a niche that is an inch wide and a mile deep. And that's the niche that I have found for me. So, with that in mind, subject matter expertise is essential for me to providing good quality. I really, really need to understand what the text is about and what the purpose of this text will be. It can be highly technical, it can be marketing, you name it. But I need to understand the text in all of its layers. And then I need to be able to put that into words. So apart from subject matter expertise, I need excellent writing skills. And I need to know how words can manipulate. I need to know how to play with words. I need to know where to be exact and where to be not so exact. So those are the two main factors that I need to provide excellent quality or excellence in my field. And yes, I do use technology, starting with basic technology like translation memories, but we also use machine translation, but not in the post-editing sense. We use machine translation as an extra source for auto-suggest, because that works well for me. I'm still... the text is still in my hands and I can shape it. So for me, that is something that works well. But if you have a different approach, that might work better for you. We also, what was the other questions? How we can benefit from that? It speeds me up. So I'm much faster when I have that little engine in my auto-suggest. But it also depends on the text. I think that's about it. If there's something I missed, let me know.
No, and I think it covers also very much. I mean, you're in a specific field of, let's call it, still the traditional translator,
exactly,
right?
Yeah, translation proper.
Diego, I know, and you just said, I mean, you're not good at translating, but you're good at so many other things. You are an entrepreneur. I know that you are also a big proponent for AI and technology. So how would you answer this question? So what specific excellence is required? How do you use technology?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm an entrepreneur only, so I can reply to this question from the point of view of what I look into people. And the very example that comes to my mind is what we're looking for in one of the open positions that we have in a company. And I wrote them down because otherwise we'll forget them. We are looking for a vendor manager. So someone to recruit basically translators. And what we listed as skills that we're looking for is natural born communicator, thriving in building connections, language mastery, that's charismatic communicator, and the ability to build bridges. So it hasn't to do with technology at all. It has to do with soft skills, and I think you can learn the tech skills if you are open-minded enough, but you need to have a specific mindedness to cover all the skills that we are looking for. Of course, we use technology a lot. And specifically, we use technology. We develop the product to select translators, to assess them, to test them. But that's only a support. We are looking for the soft skills. And I do want excellence in my company. And not easy. We are in a big change moment where someone is leaving, someone is staying. But I think we need to look at this as what we are looking for in our company. No technical skills. These we can train them if they are open-minded enough to learn. But we cannot teach these things that I just mentioned.
Thank you for bringing this perspective to it. Christian, can I say you're probably the most techie, nerdy profile in this panel? So how would you answer that question? You know, what is the human excellence that is needed in your field, and how do you use technology, or do you believe maybe that technology is even better than humans?
I'm not a technical expert. Maybe I just watched more YouTube videos than other colleagues. And we just build the applications. We don't use them. No, of course, that's not true. We see two major dimensions in use, and one is this idea of an assistant that was also mentioned in one of the panels earlier, and also what you mentioned, Lisa, and especially with the new wave of technology. So of course we had at DGT neural machine translation now for 6 years, but now we are embarking on the new wave, on the generative AI wave. And we see this assistant potential where you can speed up things, You can also generate some new ideas when you are stuck. And here I don't mean just translation or just language related. It's essentially everything, everywhere. Probably I'm not allowed to say the full title. It's copyrighted, right? It's really, every task is open. It's on the table. So the assistant, the AI assistant can help you to get through your tasks more quickly, but then there's also the automation aspect, because you won't want to ask the assistant to do every time and to write an extensive prompt or copy-paste it from somewhere when it's something that you do on a regular basis, and that's where the automation comes into place, and that is something for the organizational level that is not even directly exposed to you, but it's rather doing the work in the background, and it still helps with the acceleration of your tasks.
I think that is a very important part also that we bring. Not only is it about language or data, but also about automation. So I think that is a very important aspect you bring here. Pablo, and we have a slide that we want to bring up. I mean, in your realm, it's about text, speech, audio, visuals. Inherently, human and technology must be combined already. How do you see this interaction?
In our area, it's all about how to make media and art accessible for people who may need it because they're deaf, blind, etc. Now, for us, if we look at excellence, it's going back to the previous question: what are the requirements and the expectations? I think there's a continuum there, a spectrum between what we consider standard access and something more alternative that is happening now. If it's standard access, you have rules and regulations, you have standards and guidelines that you follow. So from that point of view, excellence will be your ability to adhere to those standards. If I'm looking at my trainees, for example, I would be marking them with a rubric that is mostly based on errors. So can they adhere to those guidelines? And the guidelines are all about, can you manage to make this media comprehensible? Can you convey the way a non-disabled person would understand this film? Can you convey that to a disabled person? That's what it's based on. And one more principle, which is do it objectively. If you describe sounds for a deaf person in the subtitles, objective descriptions, don't bring yourself in there. If you describe images for a blind person, objective description, don't bring yourself in there. Now, if I have two students, Tim and Tom, and they're very good, what I'm saying here is probably they're very good. Their output is going to be quite similar to one another because they have to adhere to guidelines, and this is encouraging convergence. That's the way it works. For me, it kind of erases difference. But still, it's a way of doing it, and it works. And a lot of people like it. Now, if you move away from that to an alternative form of access, things change because the aim is no longer to make sure that people understand the film. It's more that they have an experience. And the experience could be in many different ways, with different senses. And now you're not following guidelines, not necessarily, and you're allowed to be subjective in your description of sounds and images. Things change completely, because now Tim and Tom, when they produce their excellent output, they can show their Timness and Tomness. They could show who they are and what they bring, so to speak. They can show their subjectivity. So this is going to lead to the divergence. They're going to be completely different outputs. What we're doing here is we are not erasing difference, we're embracing it. So for me, that's where the technology comes in. If I'm in standard access, that's more likely to be automated, because it's all about convergence, it's all about patterns, it's all about, right, commonalities. Whereas if you're looking for something else, you're bringing access into the artistic territory. Most likely working with filmmakers, for example, together with them. And the output is going to be different. So to cut a long story short, if you work with guidelines as a standard access type of thing, the access is always very similar regardless of the film. It's the same ramp for different buildings, different films. Whereas in alternative access, you bring access to the art territory, and for different buildings, you have different ramps. And I think that's where the future of the human translator, audiovisual translator or access expert lies, in embracing that difference and providing something new.
I think this is a wonderful example of how AI actually brings humanity even closer to us as audiences. So thank you for that. I think again, a wonderful perspective on AI. That's not just one purpose, but it serves many purposes. I want to ask all of you. I mean, you are working with technology. All of you. You have been doing that for some time in our industry. We have been, as you all know, working with machine translation maybe for a decade or more. And so, what has actually changed during the last 5-10 years when you adopted technology? But maybe even more interesting, what has changed the last 12 months? So reflect a little bit on the AI wave. Christian, may I start with you again? I mean, to be a little bit provocative, I mean, you work in the public sector that is usually slow, and you know has to follow a lot of regulations and so on. So, but what do you see? What has this AI hype now done to your specific sector?
Speaking of slowness, you reminded me of a title that I asked ChatGPT to generate for one of our presentations about DGT's strategy in the new AI era. And one of the titles that we used in the end was Think Fast or Die. And it's something that we have been doing at DGT for a long time. I mean, machine translation was there a long time ago, but in 2017 was the first big jump with the new type of model that is still dominating today. And that was the year when e-translation started as a neural machine translation system, and that was really immediately. And it was the thing that brought a significant increase in quality in helping translators in DGT and elsewhere, and of course it's available to a lot of external users as well. Have the translators disappeared or have less work? No, on the contrary, there was increase in demand both for human translation and for machine translation, because of course very often the use cases are not exactly the same, or they are complementary. Like you said, it was already able to be a kind of assistant, so you didn't have to search for dictionaries, for example, or other things. So that has been going now for 6 years. Actually, this month is our 6th anniversary in e-translation. We have been adding other services as well, like speech transcription and summarization. And of course, now we are in a new world this year, and we are embarking on this path as well. And the EU, as you may know, has been investing also in supercomputing infrastructure and in building data sets. You know, there are these new common European data spaces, including for language data. And that's where we see the opportunity. Yes, we are experimenting now with models that are proprietary or third-party open source models. They come with a lot of issues, all of them, starting with lack of transparency of what they actually used in the training data. So this raises the big question of what do we do? Do we try to embark on the path of building something or training something that is fully under our control and in line with EU values and rules? And we are trying to build on these 3 pillars, you know, the supercomputing infrastructure that you see in the Euro HPC program, and the data that is being built through ELRC and now through the European language data space, and then the people. And that is our team of machine learning experts who can really use these ingredients and create something that would be by the EU, for the EU, or for Europe, if you like.
Thank you. Lisa, jumping to you. You mentioned that you have also been using machine translation, maybe reluctantly, I don't know. But what has changed for you during the last year and with the advent of GPT? Because as you said, you're working in a niche and maybe you're not affected, or how do you see that?
Perhaps I don't know, but I do not see myself as affected by ChatGPT. I believe that I translated a text produced by ChatGPT a couple of weeks ago because something was off with the text, and I wasn't quite sure, okay, is this artificial intelligence or is this an extreme variant of bullshit bingo? But it couldn't really.
Was it a source text that you got
exactly,
that was weird?
Exactly. So, but I'm not sure. So this is just a suspicion, and I did not want to.
People also make bad text.
Exactly. But I felt it was a different kind of weirdness. So I'm not sure. But in my daily work, ChatGPT has not arisen. But of course, machine translation has, and that is more of a challenge of how to deal with that. So how to educate clients or how to talk to clients who feel that they no longer need a human translator.
So do you feel that pressure from your clients?
I do, but it's an interesting process, because when they talk to me about that, that means that they are still interested in keeping the business relationship going. That means we've done something right over the last couple of years, building trust and building a business relationship with them. So then, this is then when we can talk about, okay, what does this text need? So might this be a use case, as you said, for machine translation, or is it something where you need a human translation? So it's more about client education, and that has been very interesting, and actually quite like it.
Wonderful.
If I may compliment you about that text, and maybe I shouldn't say this in front of my own Director General, but I was preparing some draft speaking points for him, and I shared with my colleagues to have feedback, and they thought all that it was written by ChatGPT. So never say never.
Yeah, you never know. But I feel that just like an uninspired translator makes very specific errors in a text, and machine translation makes different kinds of errors in a text. You just feel that something is off. And that's the feeling I got. But sorry about that.
Diego, I know that you are extremely active in our industry. You are everywhere. You have also experienced the hype. I mean, any conference, any event. I mean, everybody talks about AI. How do you see what has changed for you?
A lot. I'm done. No, I mean, many things. I remember in March, well, I should have paid more attention because that was coming already in November, but in March, I had this company meeting, and I told my team, look, we are in trouble. We need to do something with this, otherwise we're going to be dead. Because we had low volumes in the first quarter, and it was really difficult. And so we started working on it, and that put some pressure on them, not so much as I wished. And we started working with that. I started working I'm in charge of the marketing. That's the only thing I do in the company. So I check the copy written by my marketing person in English. And so I started to play with that. That's how we started. What has changed else? We started to offer many other services to our customers. We started to see an increasing interest in selling these kind of AI-supported services, but also we saw so many opportunities in offering like high standard human in the loop services like SEO projects, transcreation projects, and these are really increasing for us. So it's really an opportunity that I'm seeing at the moment. We are automating a lot because, as Christian was saying, it's not about prompting all the day. The last change I did in relation to this is I created an innovation lab. So I have 4 people working in this team, and one of the most important one is a linguist that used to be a translator and now is turning to AI specialist. I know we will see that later. But there is one thing that has not changed in the industry, which is the fear. It's the same reaction that I saw in 2017. Everybody was fearing that people will all be dead by some months, and that's just the same now. As my friend Renato says, we need a new fear to replace another one. And this is happening. And I still see social media posts about people trying to mystify AI by publishing, examples of where AI fails. But I think we should really focus on where AI doesn't fail.
I will come back to that point. Pablo, in your specific field, I mean, I'm amazed that, AI can not only yet generate text, but now it's also an explosion of, as I said, visual, video, images, channels, platforms. How has that impacted your specific field? What happened last year?
Our field has changed massively over the past 10 years, and especially over the past year. I think the first change over the past year would be that till say autumn 2022, 2, there was very good technology to transcribe words, so speech to text and text to speech, and that was very, very good. But all the research that we had done analyzing the quality of that was showing that it was getting closer to the human level, but not quite. Mainly in, let's just say, big languages, so to speak. Not so much in languages with fewer speakers or with not so much investment behind them. Over the past year, that has changed completely. So with the large language models applied to speech-to-text and text-to-speech technology, now we're seeing quality, for example, for live subtitles that rivals that of humans. It doesn't mean that humans are not needed for live subtitling, but there are specific contexts in which you can get away with using technology for completely automated live subtitles. So that's changed completely. Also, we are now looking at using, for example, today we presented a software called NerdBuddy where you can use ChatGPT to analyze the quality of live subtitles using a particular model that till now we thought only humans could apply. Humans didn't want to apply it because it was very cumbersome and boring. And now the machine can do it pretty well. So we are very impressed.
Isn't that fascinating? There's actually something that we thought only humans can do, and now actually AI can do it? Or
yeah, I mean, it's a model that is all about, if there are recognition errors, how do they affect the comprehension by the user? And we thought, that you need a human for that. And I trained humans for that, and they didn't thank me because it was a boring job. And now AI can almost do it, so that you just need revision. But for us, I don't think that's the biggest change that's happened, if I may say. For us, the biggest change is that till now, we could look at media access as a problem-solving issue. You just work on your subtitles and your audio description. But the world has changed. That's what's changed, the world. And now, the world is looking at us. So, till now, we were just technicians. But now, in the way the world has moved forward in progress in terms of equality, for example, now that has affected disability and is affecting us as well. Because there is now an empowerment, there is now a sense of nothing about us without us, as the disability motto goes, that tells us, well, look at your practice, look at what you're doing, and look around. Who's working in the media access industry? Is it mostly non-disabled people? But so, is that still okay? You know what I mean? So we're now looking at a place where media access is not just a delivery of a service, it's actually part of a struggle for something that is still not happening, which is the end of ableism or a full participation by disabled people in society. That's not happening, and they're looking at us saying, what are you going to do about it? So for me, that's the biggest change. And technology is going to be there as well, because if you look at AI, it's been analyzed that AI has a lot of ableist traits because the data has been included for and by non-disabled people. So again, that's a problem, and we have to look into that now.
I really, really like that perspective you give on it, that AI has changed the world, maybe not only our profession, but there's something that has changed completely. Maybe also demand driving in some way or other, where there's hopefully an opportunity in those. Diego, you mentioned fear as well. So, and we are discussing skills, of course, also. So, apart from mastering technology and maybe also mastering the fear, you need to be a very skilled, specialized linguist, as also Lisa said. Again, what personal traits are important actually to thrive in this field, you believe?
I really think it's a couple of them. It's flexibility, and it's being open-minded. It's being open to change, because change is going to happen, and is happening now. It's going to happen over and over again. And I think if you have that, and you are willing to unlearn what you've learned at school and learn new things in order to have some more headspace, because otherwise your head would be full. I think you have this, you can learn whatever, and you can keep the pace, and you don't have to be afraid of anything that's happening.
Christian, we talked before the panel, and you said maybe you don't know so much about the soft skills that are needed, but I actually think you do. So how do you go into this? Maybe fearless into your field? What personal or soft skills do you think it's needed?
As Diego said, and the famous saying, the only constant is change these days, but it's been like this for a long time, and I think what has changed is the acceleration, and I think we see a new level of acceleration, and this does require this kind of accelerated flexibility, accelerated learning, adaptability, and so on. So it's really about speed and adaptability. It's very difficult to see how you can say that, oh yes, I've learned to do all these things today, and I'm not going to change now for 5 or 10 years. And there's another famous title, and I would say that 5 is the new 10, and 2 is the new 5. So don't plan beyond that.
Thank you, Lisa. How do you survive, or should I say thrive, under the pressure or the fear? What do you think is needed from someone in your field, your niche?
I think that a key skill, but I don't know if it's a skill or a character trait, would be empathy. I need to understand where my client is coming from, and I need to be able to show that to my client, and my client needs to know that I understand their needs and that I am there to help. I'm there to make their life easier and to point out perhaps things that they might have missed or support them with an efficient process. So I think empathy would be a big skill. Just a small example that I think I can share is a mixture between empathy and diplomacy. I quite often receive texts, or we receive texts that were written by someone in a bank. Mostly, I work mostly for banks, and we are asked to review the text. And the people I work with are experts in their field, but they don't usually are experts in communication or in language. So the text can be pretty bad. And then my first attempt, or what I try to find out when I talk to the client on the phone, pick up the phone, people, pick up the phone for the empathy thing. So when I pick up the phone and talk to the client, I try to find out who wrote that piece, because I need to know how much I can rip it apart. If I feel, or if I feel that that my counterpart is hesitant and says, okay, just a light editing, then I will usually say something like, I feel that this text would need more editing, but if it's for political reasons, or if you feel that somebody might be offended, I can tone it down. And then you can hear yeah, that would be best. And then I know, okay, it was the CFO, or it was somebody right up.
No stereotypes.
Yeah, no stereotypes. But somebody high up the corporate ladder, and somebody will get into trouble if we rip this apart and hurt somebody's ego. So those small things help establish a client relationship. And that is what in the end brings us business and helps us actually not only survive but thrive.
I think another wonderful example how we bring humanity into this. Empathy is a wonderful word. Thank you for that. We have a small video clip, Pablo, in your field. What do you see is needed maybe for your generation or the next generation?
Yeah, for me, I would
Host
say...
Kelly Ray,
Okay,
Twitter at Kelly Art.
Just to explain what we're showing here, I think the traits that you need would very much be kind of social awareness, I would say, of what's going on with the people for whom you're providing a service. There's some shocking statistics showing that in the UK during the COVID times, 60% of the people who died were disabled, when disabled people only make up 20% of the population. So you get an overrepresentation of disabled people in those figures, but an underrepresentation in society. Now, the work that we provide is part of that struggle. So being aware of this going on socially is very important. That's one. Another one would be creativity, and that means being able to work with the creatives. So integrating your work as part of the production process, which we're going to see now in a second. And the last one would be empathy for kind of the human connection element that we talked about. There's this concept that is being used a lot over the last year by disabled people. It's called access intimacy. And it is the idea that when you need access, when you're in a room like this and you need access and you put on your headphones because you're blind, you're in a vulnerable position because you're showing something that every other person here doesn't have to show. Now, in that vulnerability, I can come and I can provide a service where I can meet those needs and there's a human connection that is established. This is access intimacy, is AI, access intimacy, but as the other AI is the human one, and is the one
access
that we
intimacy is, I mean, the access intimacy, that is cool.
That's kind of the what we're after, you know, the human dimension of access. The example we're going to show is an example of kind of different and creative access. When you have a video and you want to audio describe it, there's two ways. One, until now, the most common is you have a voice that describes the images for blind people. That's the first video we're going to see. In the second one, we get what you do when you try to be creative and you work inside a creative team.
Host Kelly Ray, Twitter @KellyArt.
Hi, and welcome to Show Me Your Art. Today, I am getting pottery trained. Let's go.
Twitter #ShowMeYourArt. She enters.
Wow, what a cute studio.
Finished pottery sits on shelves near the workspace.
This must be the artwork of the potter I'm meeting, Paul Stewart. Paul?
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Hey, hi. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so the next one now, that was standard audio description. Is there another one now? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kelly Ray with Show Me Your Art. Twitter @KellyArt, #ShowMeYourArt. Today, I am getting pottery trained. Let's go. Wow, what a cute studio. Looks like a mix between a bit of a showroom and an actual studio where the pottery happens. This must be the artwork of the potter I'm meeting, Paul Stewart. Paul?
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Hey, hi.
So what we're seeing there is both videos are accessible for blind people, but the difference is that in the second one, you build your audio description as part of the script. Now, that means that you're not marking, like you're not having different versions, but especially that means that the script writers and everyone in the production and pre-production process have been involved in making that accessible, which means that as an audio describer, as one of our trainees, you work inside the creative team. That means that you're a team player and everything is integrated. That's what we're aiming to do in many ways.
Yeah, you mentioned the word team player. I think this is also, again, describes that, I mean, the magic happens when we work together as humans as well. So I think this also brings me back to maybe, are we asking the wrong question here, as also the video in the beginning maybe assumed. So let's not compete against commodities. For this particular question about the skills that is needed, do we actually look too narrowly at our own profession and the skills that are needed? I actually had one epiphany during this last year of AI hype. That was that, I mean, translation tools like MT are very much single-purpose tools, while AI is actually multi-purpose, and I think we have demonstrated this today. So the question is actually not about are we becoming obsolete or is AI replacing translation. I think the question is rather not what AI does to translation, but what translation or language can do for AI. So maybe we should turn that question around. To conclude, maybe we want to bring up something. So when we are discussing also the career path for our students, can you bring up the slide? Yes, please. This is very tiny, and you can look it up. I think I'm sure we can also share the link for anyone who is interested. This is a visualization from Adam Wooten. He's an associate professor at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey. That's a very esteemed institute. And he was saying that when we're discussing these career paths, we often try to outline a very typical linear career path. But I know many of us we kind of, at least that's true for me, I kind of happen to be in this industry. So when I saw this, I think it was actually quite interesting to see. So the attempt here is actually to display a group of many merging and also diverging paths to show that language professionals have opportunities to move in many, many directions from one role to another. There are many related roles. You mentioned also teams working together. So I want to close this wonderful panel to talk a little bit about your own personal past, to open up this, as it actually said in the article when I found this, that there are nearly limitless possibilities in language service careers. Diego, do you want to start? What has been your personal past, and how do you look at this?
It's been a boring one. So I studied as an interpreter, never done that. As I said, I found a job in a translation company just before graduating, so that's been out of luck, I guess. And I did translation for 3 months, and then I moved to project management because then I saw a project manager, and he was happy about what he was doing. It looked less boring than just translating, and I did that for 3 years. Then moved to being a partner in the company, and that's again luck. So I became an entrepreneur when I was 28, and then left my company. Well, I moved to operations, to being the operations manager and partner, and then I created my own company. So it's been not maybe linear, it's been a part of learning. I had to learn and study new things for every change.
Christian, do you have a linear or a non-linear path?
I don't know, I would call it a dot and a circle. And why? Because I studied originally economics, and then I made sure that I never work as an economist in my life, so I completely moved away from that. And then, in the second half of my career, I started to work as a translator and to be involved in language-related activities and services. And I was interested in technology, and I think in this part of my career, in your landscape, I actually did a circle, because I started as a translator when I was looking at programming and trying to learn and to understand and do this. And now how do we program? Through natural language. So I am back to the start of the circle,
you closed the loop, so to speak.
Yes, I'm trying now to become what they call the AI whisperer or psychologist or stuff like that.
Pablo, what is your path? I mean, you're not the typical professor, as I said in the beginning.
I don't know what a typical professor is, but so I started doing the typical things, my PhD and then teaching, and but then because I was working in media access and I felt that it was too far from the creative element of film, I did an MA as I was working as a lecturer. I did an MA in filmmaking to learn how to make films. So when I learned how to make films, I thought, let's bring it all together. So that means that alongside the work that I do, researching, training, then I try to make films, but it's difficult. I've made only 2 or 3, and one of them's taken 10 years. So I think I only have a few films to go.
Has it been released yet?
Yeah, it has. Yeah. So it's been okay. But I was looking at your at the chart, and it's very interesting, but there's something that struck me hard, because I was looking at the hierarchy. Things are at the bottom or at the top. At the top is all those CEOs, at the bottom is, I think, a language teacher was at the bottom. I have to tell my partner, who's a language teacher, she won't like it. But I was thinking, maybe a different hierarchy, because I'm not sure that the aim is to go up there. It felt cold and lonely in the top of that mountain, so maybe it's warmer and you have more company at the bottom. But there are loads of different possibilities that are opening up. And it reminded me of this quote that I read the other day, which was, as you dismantle the world that you cannot live within, don't forget to imagine the one that you cannot live without. And at the moment, with AI, not against it, there's so many different possibilities for humans working in this area. So I think with just a few examples, but there's many different possibilities that are coming up at the moment.
Lisa, last one. You're probably the most linear in this panel, or am I mistaken? Does this resonate with you?
Yes and no, because I had an issue with a hierarchy, but you put it into words beautifully, so I don't need to mention that. I was trained as a secretary with foreign languages, actually, and had always been interested in languages, but I'd also always been interested in finance. And I remember that when I was 15 years old and I didn't know what to do with my life, and I was thinking about, should I do that language thing, or should I do the bank thing? The only thing that pushed me into the language direction was my dad, who was working for a bank, and he had started working for a bank at a time when it was a prestige thing, and where you had your reputation in it, where it was something you could be proud of. And then he saw what the industry turned into, and he said, "You're not doing that." So that was probably the only time in my life that I listened to my dad and did something with languages. And I took a course that was titled Introduction to Translation or something like that. And I had a teacher who ripped every sentence apart and who analyzed what we did, and it took us an hour to go through one paragraph. And I loved it. And I knew that this was what I wanted to do. So after a little detour through 3 years of restaurants and hotels, I ended up studying translation. And then finance came back to haunt me, and now I've got it both.
The ring was closed for you as well.
The ring was closed.
I got the sign already that we are late. So in terms of question, thank you, first of all, wonderful panel. I hope that everybody got a little bit of perspective. But let's open up both the room, but also our online community for questions. Oh, Adrian, our influencer, has a question here. Shouldn't the European institutions work as role models for European translators in terms of excellence? Web pages with raw machine output is not excellent. I think, Christian, you should answer that one.
I have to go away for a minute. But of course, this is our goal. The fact that we have raw machine output in some places, like web pages and other places, is not because that is regarded as excellence, but because if there is no machine translation, there is nothing else. And then you have the choice between nothing or something that can be at least useful to give you an idea of what is there. But of course, we want to, especially if machine translation has become better, we think that also the translators can now focus more on the really creative and complex parts and ambiguous sentences and things like that. So again, it's a combination. But in the particular case of web pages, the alternative would be nothing, because otherwise half of the planet would have to work as translators, which I suppose can be a good thing for translators. But I don't see that happening.
No, of course, there's always a compromise with the volumes, of course, and what can be done. Oh, Diego, there are a lot of questions for you here. We take one for you as well. Diego, what specifically do young translators have to unlearn? You said about unlearning, and are the EMT programs teaching unnecessary skills?
I was hoping you would choose this one and not the other one. So I was talking about translators in general, not just young translators. It's true that the young translators are in the best position to learn new things and build on what they have learned at university. But not all universities are part of the EMT program. I think in Italy we have 3, and those are great. But we have many others where there are a lot of things that are not taught. Machine translation, even CAT tools. There are many universities that are not teaching that. So the students need to be prepared to learn many, many skills. But I think they are in a very good position to do that.
Yeah, and luckily we have you on the Lint expert group as well. So we are working with the EMT to hopefully also even improve. Christian, do you want to add
just
something?
briefly, I think everybody has a lot of things to unlearn, because at the moment we are trying to do the things that we used to do with just new technology. And like before, we actually have to imagine new things and new ways of doing things. And it's not just translators.
Do we have questions here in the audience as well? Oh wow, we silenced all of them. So, so let's get back to our very active online community then. There's a question here, maybe Lisa, that's for you. If greater, in brackets, human skills are essential to excellence as described, how can very specialized or niche suppliers then push back against the assumed downwards price pressure? We had Adrian talk about that yesterday already. What would your advice be?
Oh, I'm not. I really don't know if I can give any answer to Chris Durbin, who's one of my big role models. So hi, Chris. Thanks for putting me on the spot. So I don't think that there's a magic recipe for that. It's just going out there, working the room, talking to your clients, establishing a personal relationship with your clients to ensure, first of all, customer loyalty as much as you can, but also to learn about what it is they need, just to again push for that empathy. So focus on the human aspect and the human factor in sales relationships as you would in any other business. And I know that this is pushing a lot of colleagues out of their comfort zone. But I believe that you just need to up your game in terms of being a businesswoman or businessman
including
thrive.
Empathy. That actually
Exactly.
makes the trick.
Yeah.
Actually, Pablo, I want to put this question to you. How often is the cost of introducing more tech offset by taking humans out? Maybe human and tech is ideal, but do we know enough about the consequences of tech and human? Maybe we could turn that question around and say, what is the consequences of not doing it?
Yeah, and it goes with the next question as well, the combination between machine translation and human translator. I mean, that is happening now. It's just we don't know to what degree we need one or the other. So when it comes to live subtitling, for example, you have sometimes the human producing the subtitles and the machine helping. Other times you get the machine doing them and the human assessing or correcting very quickly. And we're not sure. At the moment, what we're seeing is that the companies are just trying and testing, and that we get two scenarios. One where there's human access, which is, well, you get the automatic access, which is in bulk, it's en masse, and quality is unpredictable. And then you get the human access, and the human access tends to be more curated, cared for, and more expensive. But there are a lot of companies that are saying, you know, for this particular type of event, I cannot get away with machine access, so you go for human. So I think that's not a bad position in which to be, where you curate what you do.
So we only. You want
If I may,
to,
just quickly, if you remember,
yeah, I mean, it's your fault when we go over time and goes into people's lunch break. But
You remember
last comment from you, Christian.
I mentioned that interesting blog post that many maybe have seen about the two profiles of Centaur and Cyborg in the new AI era, where the machine stops, whether there is a hard line or whether there is some kind of seamless working together. And maybe to these questions, it's a question: what do you want to be? Do you want to be a Centaur or a Cyborg, or maybe half Centaur and the others half Cyborg? Just to reflect on it.
Yeah, thank you very much for your participation, for your reflection. I want to close this panel by saying I really think there was also a comment about a nice point from the video from the beginning, but let's lead the way here. And I think you are wonderful examples of how we can do that as humans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Just quickly, thank you, dear panelists, for this slightly disruptive message. Might I add, we keep talking about having to learn